Whenever a person, be that a watch enthusiast or just your everyday collector, hears the name King Seiko, it instantly makes them visualize fine Japanese craftsmanship that's been honed over the years. And with them introducing two new watches to the lineup, the SJE089 and SJE091, King Seiko gave them a slimmer and more refined take on the historical KSK concept. However, it gets better. How? Let's find out in our video today. With the iconic rivalry between King Seiko and Grand Seiko, both watch manufacturers are pushed to provide the best watches they can come up with. Grand Seiko took the rivalry a few steps further by turning themselves into their very own standalone brand, which left King Seiko behind crownless in a manner of speaking. In order to come back into the spotlight, King Seiko came up with two distinct collections back in 2020. The first one being high-end remakes that were released in limited numbers, followed by comparatively more accessible and modernized models that carry a hint of their past. Recently, the KSK-inspired collection has been expanded by Seiko thanks to two high-end, slimmer and non-limited models with the title SJE089 and SJE091. What's important to know about King Seiko is, apart from the internal rivalry with Grand Seiko back in early 1960, the watches were easy to distinguish and had a certain charm that made them stand out. The iconic design language originated from the decision of creating a sub-brand that would craft the most advanced, precise and luxurious models of the said brand, a premium segment in other words. The watches also won gold in several chronometry tests, namely the New Channel Observatory competitions held in 64 and 67. Now, with history left behind and moving on towards the future, Seiko is expanding its comparatively higher-end collection with two models that won't just be limited editions. As a direct upgrade or continuation, however you say it, of the SJE083 and SJE087, the SJE089 and SJE091 play in the same price range while carefully reserving the honor of being one of their most refined watches in the entire portfolio. The differences are almost last-minute details that take a trained and experienced eye to scope out and are often seen as bigger brothers to their predecessors, for lack of a better word. Visually, they do appear a lot closer to general SPB models and don't seem like they're trying to rework the existing KSK models, but at the same time they have distinct specifications, movement and refinement that are exclusive to the new variants. But one cannot help but ask, what's new with these watches? Well, first of all, the case has been reworked from the ground up. While looking almost unmistakably identical to the original version from the 1965, the signature faceted lugs and flat flanks make the watch appear slightly larger than the 2020 and 2022 limited edition variants. With a measurement of 38.6mm in diameter and a slim 10.77mm of height. This is courtesy of a combination of slimmer lugs that are still faceted with a set of comparatively larger and flatter planes with sharp angles. The watches also benefit from subtle enhancements in the case construction and a reduced height of the box-shaped crystal, which makes them appear thinner than the original hand-wound variant found back in 1965. The finishing leaves nothing to complain about either, as the mirror-polished, distortion-free surface hardly leaves anything to desire. The back comes crafted with solid steel with the King Seiko emblem graciously engraved on it, with the exception of the golden medallion that accompanies the limited edition variants. While the water resistance level remains unchanged at 50 meters, for the first time in this high-end range, the two watches come bearing, wait for it, a steel bracelet. This addition massively enhances the overall appeal of the watches that make a great combination between technical functionality and a vintage charm. The flat surfaces are brushed while maintaining 7 links that are deeply faceted to provide a nice and deep effect on the wrist. Now, as far as the dials go, with a choice between silver and black, they come with more classic literature at 6 o'clock, with a Diashock mention replaced by a somewhat generic automatic text. However, there is a fine sense of refinement on the dials and the overall build is pretty discreetly and carefully executed. The hands and the markers have been meticulously reworked with a delicate sunray finish that resembles the original variant, with a small difference between the two dials in the form of polished hands and markers on the silver variant, while the black variant rocks a hairline finish and markers to level the contrast. Under the hood lies a caliber 6L35, a slimline in-house movement that is reserved for brand's limited edition variants. The movement bears at 4 Hz while boasting a power reserve of 45 hours, however, we cannot help but covet a fine-tuned caliber 6L35 to chronometer grade, which would give the regal title some weight and would more than justify the price tag. Speaking of, as part of the permanent collection, the King Seiko SJE089 and SJE091 are not limited with a price tag of 3,400 euros. And you can consider them as great alternatives to most luxurious watches without even spending a whole lot of cash. So that was a take on why King Seiko is better than you think. Regardless of our opinion, what do you think of the brand and its new lineup? Do let us know, as we'd love to hear from you. And as for everything else, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you want more content like this on your feed.